Russians are blaming everything. It's a catastrophe. The biggest fuel crisis has hit the Russian Federation head-on. There isn't a single drop of gasoline. Drivers are abandoning their cars. Life has come to a halt. Fuel for Putin has become a luxury. Ukrainian drones have accomplished a critically important mission. With each passing day, Russia is left with less and less, and it's sinking to its knees more and more. And it seems that only a painful fall lies ahead. All the hottest details about this are coming up in the story.
An absolute anti-record for Putin. Cars in Russia are ceasing to be a means of transportation and are turning into a luxury item. Because for Russian residents, fueling their iron horses is becoming increasingly difficult. Despite the fact that the Kremlin extracts an enormous amount of oil, the country is facing a shortage of gasoline and diesel fuel.
It's almost laughable that in a country that used to be a gas station and a mere appendage of China, with an economy based on pipelines, now can't even provide its own population and businesses with oil and petroleum products.
The main culprit behind the catastrophic fuel shortage across the border has been the Ukrainian Armed Forces and their precision strikes on the occupiers' oil refining infrastructure. Thus, by the end of September, oil refineries across Russia were idling at least 38% of their primary oil processing capacity, or 338,000 tons per day. For the former gas station country, this is a colossal market collapse. Recently, the fuel shortage has become acutely felt even at the front lines. At regular Russian gas stations, you won't find 95-octane fuel in most regions, even if you search all day.
In particular, at certain gas stations, they began to temporarily limit the amount of fuel sold per person, somewhere up to 20 liters, somewhere up to 30 liters. They started rationing sales. And at other stations in some regions of Russia, they even temporarily suspended the sale of certain types of fuel altogether. That is, in some places there was no AI 92 gasoline available, in others there was no AI 95, and so on. At the same time, at small independent private gas stations that are not part of the so-called vertically integrated oil companies, there was a sharp increase in fuel prices.
The recent situation in the country has only made things worse. Along with the shortage at gas stations came sky-high prices. This summer, the price of gasoline and diesel in Russia has increased by a solid 15 to 20%. And starting from autumn, the price tags on gas station signs across the border have been changing almost daily. Each time they add 1 or 2 rubles to the cost of fuel. But even such an increase is not enough to cover the costs of Russian oil refineries, which are now constantly under attack from Ukrainian Armed Forces drones.
The scale of the deficit has become such that these targeted strikes are hitting the pockets of oil workers and already struggling refineries and oil companies whose profits are collapsing, making it difficult to somehow supply the domestic market.
Things are even considerably worse for Russian oil traders on foreign markets than they are domestically. If previously the state generously compensated for price differences through exports, today almost no one in Europe is actively buying Russian oil, which has created significant economic challenges. Therefore, there is no longer any reason to expect cheap gasoline within Russia itself.
Oil companies can't make money on foreign markets because, as you know, everything is tight, there are restrictions, and oil prices are falling. Right now, Russian oil is trading at $55 to $57 per barrel, taking into account all the discounts and price cuts. And that's it. So now the oil companies, having run out of options, are starting to ask for help, lower taxes, reduced mineral extraction tax rates, export duties, and excise taxes.
There's nothing left to patch the hole in the Russian economy. As a result, the Kremlin couldn't come up with anything better than to announce the start of fuel imports into the country while simultaneously halting all exports of gasoline and diesel from the Russian Federation.
In other words, they're trying to skirt around the truce. How can you not recall Churchill here, who said that when the Soviet Union starts buying wheat, that's when it will come to an end? Similarly, when Putin's Russia starts buying gasoline, after some time it will come to an end, just as the Soviet Union once did.
The Ukrainian authorities have also actively taken up the task of helping Russia come to an end. Alongside drone attacks on oil refineries, Kiev is also hitting Putin's economy on the diplomatic front.
If Ukraine effectively synchronizes its comprehensive strategy to significantly reduce Russia's vital resource base with its key international allies, specifically with the powerful nations of Europe, the United States of America, Japan, and other crucial partners and so on, then sanctions are imposed very quickly. And also, South Korea and Singapore are simply afraid to supply gasoline to Russia so as not to fall under sanctions.
In such a hopeless situation, the Kremlin is grasping at the last straw. Disregarding all environmental regulations, the government has practically legalized counterfeit fuel in the hope that at least it will supply the Russian gasoline market. However, analysts assure that such a decision will, on the contrary, drive the final nail into the coffin of oil refining in the Russian Federation.
The authorities have decided to fight the gasoline shortage with methods that cause suffocation and ruin car engines. Deputy Prime Minister Novak has proposed bringing back for 6 months a special gasoline additive that was banned back in 2016. With its help, they want to increase gasoline production, but there's a catch. This additive has a negative impact on the environment, damages older cars, and increases the concentration of nitrogen oxide in exhaust fumes, which settles in the air at a height of 60 centimeters above the ground. Inhaling these fumes is dangerous for people. Among the symptoms of poisoning are slowed reactions, a feeling of heaviness, and bluish discoloration of the hands and ears.
And such a surrogate with toxic additives can instantly turn an engine into a pile of scrap metal. After half a year of driving on such fuel, a car will become unusable, just like all Russian public transport. Then without proper gasoline or diesel, the entire multi-million-strong country will be forced to switch to good old horse-drawn carts.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
A triple strike from the sky, Gripen, F-16 and Mirage. This entire triad is about to burst into Ukrainian skies and crush Russia. The stakes are rising and Ukraine's air fleet is expanding before our eyes. The West is shouting, it's time to act. The Kremlin is not thrilled about such a strengthening of the Ukrainian armed forces. Our comeback is causing fear in Putin. He definitely wasn't prepared for this. What kind of powerful strike awaits the enemy? Don't miss what's next.
To defend more effectively and attack with greater results, the Ukrainian General Staff has confirmed the upcoming transfer of an additional batch of Western fighter jets to the armed forces. In addition, new deliveries of Patriot systems are coming from several allies at once. This fall, Ukraine definitely does not intend to leave Moscow's strikes unanswered.
Obviously, the Air Force's entire fleet will certainly be expanding, and our operational capabilities will definitely be growing significantly. Yeah. This is important.
However, it was in an interview with the BBC that the first Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Lieutenant General Ivan Havrilyuk, revealed that Kyiv is preparing to receive several types of new aircraft at once.
We clarified with Havrilyuk when the next deliveries will take place. He said, "Let's wait until you see them in the skies over Ukraine. Then you'll understand the answer," said the Deputy Minister. Bravo, that's a very good and correct answer, so that the enemy doesn't understand, doesn't know, and so there are no expectations here. It's a clear, normal, practical, and pragmatic position. They will be carrying out combat missions in the air, and then we'll see.
The only thing Havrilyuk revealed was the models of the upcoming reinforcements. And yes, we're talking about a new batch of F-16S, French Mirage 2000s and Swedish Gripens.
A very effective and truly powerful piece of advanced aviation equipment, which is precisely what the Swedish industry has skillfully created, specifically designed to effectively counter a more powerful and better resourced adversary.
Analysts explain that given the number of sorties flown by Ukrainian aviation, the issue of maintainability is far from insignificant. It is also very important that the hardpoints can accommodate Ukrainian as well as European and American weaponry. After all, supplies to Ukraine are now coming from all over the world. And the Gripen meets these requirements.
The Swedish army has long been prepared for a possible confrontation with the Russian Federation, and the aircraft in question, namely the JS-39 Gripen, was designed specifically for such a scenario. It is relatively inexpensive to maintain and highly functional.
At the same time, in terms of maneuverability, they are head and shoulders above all Soviet aircraft and most Western ones, which will give our pilots a significant advantage when operating directly near the front line. Another addition to Ukraine's Air Force will be the French Mirages. This equipment is already familiar to our pilots and is mainly used for long-range strikes with Scalp and Storm Shadow missiles.
6,900 kilograms of payload. This can include bombs, missiles, a huge assortment. Moreover, it can also carry external fuel tanks. Well, for example, for intercepting something, for patrolling.
According to analysts, these aircraft also perform well during large-scale operations. The point is that French fighter jets are equipped with an advanced inter-aircraft communication system which allows them to carry out missions more effectively as a group.
It can also operate in communication with AWACS systems. Thanks to this, the shortcomings of their radars are not as noticeable, and the ability to create three-dimensional objects on the display makes it easier to conduct strikes and fly at low altitudes. However, it should be noted that Mirages are specifically designed to operate as part of a team. They exchange information with each other, with ground-based radars and with AWACS systems.
As a result, in addition to more effective strikes, Ukraine will also be able to defend itself more efficiently. According to President Volodymyr Zelensky, at the end of the summer, Israel provided us with an additional Patriot air defense system, and 2 more systems are already on the way.
The Israeli system is operating in Ukraine a month. We are receiving 2 air defense systems in total. Let's get everything more about air defense.
But as it turned out, the German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius is not against talking about it. He confirmed that it is Berlin that is handling the delivery of air defense systems for Ukraine, in addition to the 3 already delivered. However, the main intrigue regarding the transfer of additional weapons to Ukraine remains the American Tomahawk missiles. The Institute for the Study of War reported that Moscow is already trying to disrupt these deliveries, claiming that in response it might deploy its Rationing in Venezuela. However, according to rumors from Washington, these threats have not affected the White House.
That's all from me for now. This was Yadarina Hutskalo with you. Even more hellish news from the front in our next broadcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon.